Alright, so, this video, again, is not exactly groundbreaking subject matter. I will say that I have some spicy hot takes. I'm Gwen and I'm a moron. Well, it's only been within the last couple of years that I've been posting my art online at all. And, I haven't really been active in any of the online art communities until really, like I said, the last 2 years, really seriously. I've been sort of adjacent to it for a little over a decade. As I mentioned in my video about drama videos, which is a very stupid sentence, admittedly, my parents were somewhat hippies when I was younger, and computer time was pretty heavily restricted, basically until my parents got a divorce and both became a lot more lenient out of spite for one another. It was a fun time. I got a lot of cool shit. I'm not advocating for divorce, but, silver linings and all that jazz. Around that time, or more specifically, the beginning of 6th grade, goobery little 11-year-old me was introduced by a friend of mine from school to a little website that some of you may have heard of. Gaia Online. That's right. 2012 Gaia. Fuck, I just full-on punched my mic. That's gonna sound super cool. 2012 Gaia, anyways. 2012 Gaia basically already had a deeply messed up economy. For those of you who, don't know anything about that world, it was just super fucked, and the free currency you couldn't do anything with, and even the paid currency, it was insane. It was insane. So basically, one of the only ways that people could actually reliably get a hold of rare items, unless they'd been on the site forever also, and also had really rare items that they didn't want, that they'd somehow managed to hang on to all this time, despite them not wanting them, was to trade art for it. So, there was a really big art community on Gaia because of that. There was a huge economy around it. And personally, my art wasn't remotely good enough for that time. Honestly, it probably isn't even today. There were some absolute god-tier artists on that bizarre clusterfuck of a website. So I just had to deal with the fact that I would never get my hands on that fucking Halo. I don't know how many of you guys were on Gaia and know what I'm talking about, but if you know what I'm talking about, I wanted that fucking Halo. Anyways, but it was through the art community on Gaia, it was through the art community on Gaia that I was first introduced to the concept of adoptables. That's right, I had a point that I was going to get to eventually. Faked you out, didn't I? And there were all sorts at the time, but I mostly remember what still seems to be pretty standard today. There's been surprisingly enduring trends. It was a lot of cute, colorful, furry or fantasy characters, elves and nymphs and centaurs and that sort of thing, with nice, aesthetically pleasing color palettes, although in the early they were cute, colorful, furries or other fantasy characters like nymphs and centaurs and that sort of thing, or just even original fantasy characters, which granted some of them were really cool, with nice, aesthetically pleasing color palettes, although it was the early 2010s, so some of the color palettes really were pretty eye-bleedy. It was a different time, and especially online, I feel like people just took colors and applied them aggressively. But I don't know. I was a scene kid, so maybe I'm biased. But I'll admit that honestly, I never really understood the point of adoptables. Like, I wasn't somebody who was super into it and is now disillusioned. I just always thought they were dumb. So, like, bear that in mind. But I've always been both pretty creative and pretty frugal. So between those two things, they never particularly tempted me. But eventually, after more exposure to communities in which they were popular, especially over the past couple of years, I sort of started to understand, although I will say hard emphasis on the sort of. And I'm going to put a warning out. This is the point in the video where I'm going to get a little harsh. But just hear me out, okay? I feel like people who buy adoptables pretty much fall into one of 4 categories. And again, this is going to sound real bitchy. But I'm drunk, so cut me some slack. But anyways, the 4 categories: lazy, uncreative, both lazy and uncreative, or the 4th god tier category, incredibly soft and gullible and pure. And actually, I feel like most of the people that buy adoptables end up in the 4th category. So there is that. But before I justify these opinions, because again, I do understand that they do sound pretty harsh. Before I justify them, I want to tell you all a little bit about my personal creative process, and how and where I draw information. I want to tell you all a little bit before I justify these opinions more specifically, about how and where I draw inspiration from. And I promise it's relevant. I know that this sounds kind of random, but like, I mean, the same is probably true if you're watching this video. I know that a lot of people that consume art videos are artists, and I love art. I really fucking love art. That was probably pretty obvious at this point, given that I have like an art YouTube channel and I draw a lot and stuff, and I talk into my microphone at myself about art in my house alone all day. But yeah, I am, let there be no doubt, a grade A art hoe. I follow like tons of accounts that are art. I am drunk. I follow tons of art accounts on Instagram, and I have, of course, my favorite art history giants like Frida Kahlo and Claude Monet, and modern social media artists that I stan. And when I'm not making art or looking at art, there's like a 90% chance that I'm thinking about art. I like to think that I have at least a somewhat distinct art style, although some people might just refer to that as bad. But I'll be the first to admit that said art style is an amalgamation of dozens, at least, of artists that inspired me. Like, I really just take things from everything that I like. Developing an art style is like clothes shopping, I think. You try things that call out to you, and you take home the things that you like. But by combining different items from different stores, you make it your own. And okay, I almost don't want to say this because I don't want to be that asshole, but like, all art is technically somewhat derivative. It's just derivative from multiple sources. And you know what? So are babies. and nobody's saying that they're theft or dumb or whatever. What was my point? But anyways, even as somebody who has gotten my art style from trying to emulate bits of the styles of other artists that I personally really look up to, I have never been up one particular artist's ass enough that I want my style to look 100% like theirs, because there's just so much good stuff out there. Anyways, if you have been able to glean pretty much any meaning from that, then I'm impressed. But Jesus, excuse me. I told you I was drunk. If you're able to glean, if you're able to glean, why did I put the word glean in my script when I knew that I was drinking? Wow. Anyways, if you're able to get like any sort of semblance of meaning from that, then I am impressed. But like I said, I promise this all is relevant. So let's get back to how it relates to adoptables. Remember those 4 categories of people who buy adoptables that I mentioned earlier? Let's start with lazy. And again, I know this is gonna sound harsh. Hear me out. But this one is pretty self-explanatory. This is somebody who has some ideas for a character design, but either they don't have enough worked out off the top of their head to pull together an entire character right away, or maybe they do have some concrete ideas, but they just can't be fucked to draw it themselves and would rather put a bit of additional detail into a character that somebody else made. And honestly, I really cannot fault the lazy adoptables buyer. Sometimes I put off design projects because it's tedious. I do lazy shit all the time. I once ate cereal with a measuring cup because I couldn't be fucked to find a spoon. That's a lie. It's been a lot more than once. But my point is, you be you, boo-boo. I think it's fine to be lazy sometimes. Like, whatever. Everybody does it. Boom. Point 1 done. Killing it. Jeez. I'm... Is there a pause enough that I can go pee? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I was, like, thwarted by my pause button. But anyways, yeah, lazy, done. So, then there's uncreative. The uncreative adoptables buyer. And I'll be entirely honest here, this one doesn't really completely compute to me. And this is gonna sound super douchey. I'm legit not at all trying to brag, but lack of inspiration specifically for character designs. It comes up with like all sorts of other shit, but for character designs has just never been an issue for me. I have character designs coming out of my ass. Like, I legitimately have more OCs than I know what to do with. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I should sell them as adoptables. But jokes aside, let's go back to the inspiration thing. I see character designs that I just absolutely adore. Like, so good, so cute, so amazing on a daily basis. Like, I name dropped a bunch of artists earlier, and like, there's just hundreds more. I'm inspired by so much around me, but I have never seen a character that I love so much that I have to, like, have it for myself. It inspires me. Like, oh, maybe I like the way that this artist drew a hairstyle, and I think I'd like to tweak it a little and maybe combine it with something on an existing character. Like, oh, maybe I'll put her hair up like this. Like, maybe I like the way that they draw the highlights in their eyes. And, you know, I'll just adapt that and kind of tweak that and plug that into my style and see if it works. And then, you know, try things out. Experiment. That's how you learn. So, yeah, and basically, I take what I like and I leave the rest. And guess what? Pretty much every professional artist does this. Like all of them almost. It just requires some creativity and experimentation, and I don't really understand why some people can't take a small piece of inspiration and work out from there. And no, for anybody that's gonna think this or say this, that's not art theft. It's not. Like I said, pretty much every professional artist does this to some degree, to the point where we were literally taught how to do this in art classes that I took in college. They teach you how to do this while they teach you how to do art. And of course, anyways, of course, some people fall into both of those camps that I mentioned. They can't extrapolate their own ideas from other media that they like, and they can't even be fucked to try. And like I guess those people exist, but I just don't get that. I am a creative person, and yes, I have hiccups just like everybody. Yes, I get writer's block. Yes, I get art block, but like not being able to be creative at all just like doesn't compute to me. But the last thing, and what I really want to ideally talk about and address the most, is the fourth type of adoptables buyer. Because I feel like in a lot of ways this is the most common, and I feel like this is the most fucked up, and this is what makes me most resent people that create adoptables. And this is the buyer who sees an adoptable that they love, and they feel like guilty about it. They feel like they can't take any elements, even if they only like really love a couple of things. They're like, oh, I can't take any elements for my own design because that's art theft and that's bad. Or like maybe that's not even the case. Maybe they genuinely love the artist's work, but they can't afford a proper commission because most of the time adoptables are a lot cheaper than commissions. And if you are charging more money for your adoptables than your commissions, what the fuck are you doing? Why? Adoptables are like, you get to design it, so like you can do whatever you want. You should ostensibly enjoy it always. And they're also less work, so why would you charge more? But yeah, so I have seen a lot of people that do buy adoptables because they really love the artist's work, but they can't afford a full commission, but they like want to support the artist. They want to give them money, and they want a character that they can actually like do things with. And if it is that, then like that's fine. Whatever. That's actually a fair way to give an artist that you love. God damn it. If that's the case, then that is like whatever. That's a fair way to give an artist that you love some money and get some art in return, and it's a fairly decent win-win. It's a relatively low level of cost and work for the buyer. But if it's for the former, I promise that you can workshop the design into something that you really like better. Like if you see a design that you think is perfect, you can make something that you like better. You can make it your own. You can make it cool. And hot take, taking an established character and morphing it until it's something completely your own through gradual tweaks is an amazing character design exercise, so long as the end result is still unique. Fucking go for it. I have designed tons of OCs this way. Like, you just keep changing things until it's unrecognizable. And even if you don't plan to use that OC for anything, it's just a good character design exercise. It flexes those muscles. Do that. Do that all the time. Do that constantly. And most artists that I know, and like I totally understand this, most artists that I know are creative and they don't want to just take copies of other artists' designs. And like I get that. And obviously don't just straight up copy somebody's design. But starting from zero can be hard, especially if you're not used to flexing those creative muscles. If you're, new to character creation, if you're newer to art, if you're rusty. Yeah, using another OC as a jumping off point is 100% fine, so long as you use it just as a jumping off point and you incorporate loads of other elements to make it unique. My entirely unsolicited advice: take the elements that you like, play around with them until you get something totally unique in your own out that maybe doesn't even have all of those elements that you like to begin with. Because sometimes you think, oh, this is great, and this is great, and this is great, but then you have your own ideas, and then some of the initial things don't even work with those own ideas. Like, it could turn into something completely unrecognizable. But do that, and then save your money until you can pay the artist for a proper commission. Hell, if you love the artist's design and you really want to make their day, buy a commission of one of their OCs that's like their main OCs, rather than buying an adoptable. Because most artists that I know would absolutely love the chance to do something like that. I mean, if somebody commissioned me to draw one of my OCs, I would probably literally cry. I mean, last time somebody became mutuals on Instagram with me, I literally cried for 5 minutes. So yeah, just do that. So that's all I got. This has been way longer than I expected. When I was like planning this out, and I even like typed up, I don't have full scripts, but I did like bullet points, and I was like, oh yeah, this will be like 10 minutes, and it's not. But anyways, yeah, that's all. If you like my art or what I had to say about other people's art, then hit the subscribe button to see more from me, and check out my social media, which will be linked probably in the description, I think. I do comics and stuff, and I draw cute girls. So that's all from me for now. Bye. Also, I have crazy frogs stuck in my head.